guess I'm starting early. Hey, I didn't mean to hit the button, but I did. I'm working on a different process here, and I did not think that it was going to move me over to my live screen, but here I am. So I think we'll just get started. So we're like a minute early, and no big deal, because hey, we were going to start in a minute anyway. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of some music to get you started before we run with scissors, because you know, running with scissors is totally safe. Anyway, hey, so glad to see you all joining. Yeah, Paula, we've got some music, and I thought it was kind of fun. So next time I'll know better how to do my transitions so I don't accidentally come over live a little early. No big deal though, right? All right. So hey, I am so glad to see all of you joining me. We are going to have another fun live stream today with some really great crafting. We're going to move into some more dye work, but this month's theme is paste, paint, and powder. And it's going to be really interesting because we're going to explore some different mediums. I'm doing some really different projects this month and that I absolutely love. So maybe this is an evolution of my style. I'm really excited about sharing it all with you. So we're going to start today with a new stamp set from, or not a new die set from Ulta New, and a new to me die set from Waffle Flower, one of my other favorite craft companies. Anyway, while we are getting started, I'm so glad to see a whole bunch of new people joining. If you are new out there, please say hello. Tell us where you're from. We'd love to know. We are from all across the world, so welcome to you. I've got a few announcements. They haven't really changed since last week. Of course, we already talked about this month's theme, paste, powder, and paint. Next month, we will be doing a one set challenge. We'll be using the same stamp set all month. I call it a stamp focus month. And the stamp set is called Walk, Run, and Crawl, Walk, Crawl, and Run, Crawl, Run, and Walk, whatever, from Picket Fence Studios. I do have the link down below in case you want to pick it up for our challenge. I will be sharing more with you about the challenge as I start getting some things put together for that. So stay tuned. Let's see what else. Oh, the technique freebie. If you are looking for a great start to a technique library, like one that I use on my Tuesday videos and one that maybe you've seen me use here, go ahead over to NicoleWattCreates.com/technique freebie and sign up for my mailing list. If you're already on my mailing list, you're just going to get some emails that give you access to the freebie, but you won't get like duplicate messages or anything. So grab the freebie. It's got 5 great mixed media techniques in there, and start on your technique resource binder if you want to start that. Let's see. Oh, crafty sales. Totally check out scrapbook.com. They have 5% off all week, maybe longer. I'm not sure. March is craft month or something. So they've got some great sales going on there. Okay, let's see what else is in my list of announcements here. If you are inspired by anything that you see me creating here on my channel, I would love to see how that inspiration works for you. So don't forget to tag me at Nicole Watt Creates on social media, preferably Instagram, but if you're on Facebook, tag me there too. I'd love to see what it is that you're creating and how you're inspired by the work that I'm doing here. As always, I do have the list of today's supplies down below. Those are affiliate links, which means that if you click on a link and you do some shopping at that store, whether you buy that product or not, I might get a small commission. It's always at no additional cost to you, and it's a great way to support me and other crafters out on YouTube and social media, to help give us a little bit of a boost for all of the content that we're putting out there for you. So I always appreciate it when you use my affiliate links. And like I said, everything that I'm using today is down there. And if you would prefer to thank me directly by buying me a cup of coffee, there is the link to my tip jar. Tips are always appreciated. Thank you to these 2 lovely ladies for giving me a tip last week. I really do appreciate it. That cup of joe was mighty fine, and it kept me going through creating a whole bunch of new content for the month. Also, welcome to all sorts of newbies to my channel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed in the last week. I had another great uptick of subscribers, so thank you to all of these people for subscribing to my channel. The more subscribers I get, the more YouTube knows that people like me, the more I fall in your algorithm, the more I get more followers. So thank you. I see I've got some new followers here today, and I'm so glad to have you with me. I hope that you love what I'm doing here enough to give today's video a thumbs up and hopefully to subscribe to my channel. All right. let's get down to business, shall we? We're crafting today. As always, here are our lovely, lovely projects. So I really, really love these. We are pairing these beautiful dies from Ulta New. These came out last week. The Wispy Feather dies with these gorgeous bold dies from Waffle Flower called Hey, Hi, Hello. Okay, so let me show you. Just going to move that off to the side, what they look like. Okay, so here is our die set. And let me switch to my hand here. There we go. Here is our die set from Ulta New. And so there's two different feathers and then an outline. The outline matches up right to the same edge as the feather that's more detailed. So there is no border around these. It is just the straight up feather that's like this. And then you've got a border or a backgrounder if you want to. Okay, so this is how they end up looking. All right, seriously love these. We're going to use these today. And then this is the Hey, Hi, Hello die set from Waffle Flower. And they don't have... Waffle Flower doesn't give you like a reverse picture, but I mean, they're words. You know what they're saying. They are all one piece. We're going to use these again next week too, because I love them so much. But see, it's all one piece. And then there's also a shadow die. So you can do a background, which we will do on one of our cards. When we do the hey, we're going to use the backgrounder on that. And when we use the hi, we're just going to do the hi. Now the tittle on the hi, that's the little dot over an I. It is all on its own, but it's so big, I won't lose it. All right, so yeah, we're doing 2 cards again this week. I know last week some of our new visitors were a little overwhelmed because we did 2 cards, but these are much simpler than the cards from last week. So this will not take us long to do at all. All right, let's get started, shall we? Oh, and I should mention, I changed the time on my blog post. So right now, my blog post is live over on my blog, and you can grab my technique or my tutorial sheets. So project sheets you can grab for both projects. I have one for each, the purple one and the black project for today. There are QR codes, so if you print them off, you can just point your phone camera at this and it will take you to both the shopping list or to today's video. And then on the other side, I have full step-by-step instructions. I have, again, the supplies list. So if you're using the electronic PDF, you can click on any of these and it will take you to any of the supplies that you might need. So there we go. These are available on my blog right now. If you are on my mailing list, you will get a reminder tomorrow about the blog post, and you can go grab them then if you forget today. All right. Seriously, now we can get to crafting. Okay. So we're going to start with one of my favorite watercolor sets. This is the metallic watercolor pan set from Ulta New. One of my favorites. Love it. Okay, and I've got some brushes here, 2 different sizes, a small one, which is really good for doing some splatter, and then a big one that is better for doing the wash down the one side. So I'm going to actually kind of tag team and do both of these at the same time. So I have some watercolor card. Let me make sure that I keep them in the right, with the right project. Yes. Okay. So this is going to be the black one, and this is going to be the purple one. Set that. Actually, we're going to do the purple one first. So the first thing that I actually need to do is just some splatter. And I'm going to put this, this is just a craft mat. It's actually a kitchen mat that I cut down so I can use different size for different things. It's cheaper than some of the branded craft mats. So I like it a lot though. Okay, so we're going to start with this color right here. This is Rhodolite, and it is one of my favorites. It's kind of like a purpley black, but it looked really, really good with the Purple Rain iridescent paper that we're going to use on this card. So I'm just going to use this. So for this card, let me zoom in a little bit here. We're just going to do some splatter. So that's why I'm using this smaller brush. I just need to get a little bit of splatter on here. All right. And I'm just tapping it away. All right, and if I want a bigger splatter, now this is kind of a big brush to do this with, but you can do splatter with a bigger brush. Again, I'm just going to go into my Rhodolite. And see, that's going to get me a bigger splatter. And I'm just going to set this off to the side because we want this to dry before we do our next step on this one. Okay. So like I said, we were going to tag team this a little bit because of that. So the next one, we're going to do the background on this card here. Now, if you noticed, this is black-ish. There is no black in the Metallics pan set. So there's a couple things you can do. You can either take black watercolor and mix it with, like, say, this pearl here, or even the Rhodolite, or you can mix green and Rhodolite together. So this is like a red color to get a muddy blackish color. All right, so I'm going to take like a whole bunch of this Rhodolite and just put it on my mat here. All right, clean off my brush because I don't want to contaminate my pan. And then I'm going to go over here into the jade. And now I'm going to mix these two together. Now, normally you wouldn't want to mix these two together because, well, you wouldn't want an ugly black color, but we want an ugly black color. We actually want a really pretty black color. So it takes less green than red in this instance. So I need to add just a little bit more red back into that. And maybe just a little bit more green. There. All right, so I'm going to test this just on the back here and see how I got this really nice kind of grayish black color. All right, that's because I mixed the two colors together, right? So I don't need this anymore. I'm going to use just my little bit here that I created on my mat. And I'm just going to do a little swizzle down the side. Have you been watching, did you watch the Olympics? They were talking about the ice dancers, and they do twizzles and all those kinds of things. So this is a swizzle. I'm just going to swizzle down the one side because I just want this to go behind where the feather is going to go. All right, and so it can be as dark or as light as you want it to be. If you want to dry it a little bit and then do like another layer over it, or if you leave some little pools like this, they will dry darker, right? Okay, and then I also want to do some splatters just to get a little bit of splatter over here on the side. My brush does not have enough water on it to drop off drops. There. Okay, so we're going to do more with these. But again, I want this to dry a little bit. So we're going to let that dry. And I'm going to move my, see, the thing about using this mat is so nice is that I can just kind of roll it up and move it out of the way. All right, so let me move this out. And this and that. Okay. See, I told you this one would go so much faster. Okay, so let's work on die cutting some elements while we're waiting for those panels to dry. So we need to do some feathers and we need to do our sentiments. And here's the cool thing. I just need my mini blossom because everything is going to fit through my little 3-inch space here. All right, so this is kind of nice. I like being able to work from a smaller space if I can, you know, right here in front of you guys. Sometimes it works out just a little better. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is some feathers. Now, decisions. You need to decide which way you want your feather to face. All right, so both of these feathers, so we can go this direction, or we can go this direction. All right, either way will work. But with this piece of paper, I need to go this direction. So the one is just slightly smaller than the other. And for this one, we're also going to use the background. We're going to turn a piece of vellum into the background for this. This is a fairly detailed die, so I am going to use my shim. All right, so just put the shim over and then the last piece on top. sandwich that all together. The nice thing, if you don't know the mini blossom, it does have little suction cups on the bottom. So I can just suction that right in place, and now it's not really going to move as I try to push this through. All right. So thanks, guys. I really do like that grayish black background that created. It works out really well. So don't be afraid to mix your colors together. You never know what you're going to get. This is a really great stencil. We're going to use this in a little bit. Either this one or the red one, just kind of depending on where we go with that. All right, so this has got all sorts of little pieces. You could do the whole paper piecing deal and paper piece in all the extra little pieces if you want. Or you can just toss them and grab the background. All right. So there we go. Isn't that beautiful? So this is a glossy black cardstock. It's made by Tonic, and it's gorgeous. It gives you kind of like the impression that it's been heat embossed, but it hasn't. It is just a glossy black cardstock. All right, so there we go. Get all our extra pieces out. Does anyone use a pokey tool for actual paper piercing anymore, or do you just use it to poke things out from your dies? I don't really do much in the way of paper piercing, so for me it's mostly just a die tool. But originally we didn't have these cool dies like this, and all we had were like templates and things that we actually did paper piercing with. It's really beautiful, but it's not very popular anymore. All right, so now we're going to run this guy through. This is just the vellum piece. All right. So here we go. Here is our background. So if you were going to layer these directly on each other, like I said, they overlap perfectly. They come right up to the edge. So you would just have like a vellum filled feather, which would be really pretty. We're going to offset a little bit just to give it some visual interest. All right. Okay. For our other card, for this one, I used the same feather on my original project, but we can use the other one. So let's do that. So we can see what they both look like, right? And this one, we just need the feather. We do not need the backgrounder piece. Get my workout today. If you have the mini blossom and you have the metal shim, this will happen. It will curve, but this is a thick enough shim that you can actually just bend it right back into place, which I really like about this. Okay, and we need to do other die cuts too. All right, this paper is also by Tonic. We do need to save this because we're going to do some stenciling with that. This paper is called Purple Rain. It is an iridescent purple, and it is stunningly beautiful. Look at that. Ooh, there we go. There's the iridescence. All right, it is really, 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 really pretty. All right. This is almost worth saving the extra little pieces and doing some inlay with, but into the trash they go. All right, so we're done with our feathers. Let's see, where are we with these guys? Because we need to get these to dry too. Okay, so done with the feathers. We're going to come back to some die cutting in a minute here. Stickles. This is stickles in a jar instead of stickles in a squeeze bottle. This is called Asteroid. Yeah, that's right, Asteroid. Okay. And the reason why it's in a jar is because it has bigger pieces in it that are, let's see if I can find, oh, here we go. So you see these little metallic bits here? Those are actually in the stickles. Okay, so that's why they didn't put it in a little squeeze bottle, because you would never get it to squeeze out of the bottle. So on this one, this needs just a little bit of drying. All right, so if you ever have to heat set your paper because you're just trying to get it to dry fast, do a little bit of heating on the back side, and that will help it to kind of rebend into more of a flat state. So that is a super helpful tip for you. This guy just does need a little bit of drying too. There, so you see how that just made that nice and flat? There we go. All right, so now we're gonna have some fun with some stickles. All right. Oh, and you know I was gonna... So, listen, you don't have to buy these stickles. If you have stickles or other mediums like stickles that are in the tubes, just squeeze them out and get yourself a palette knife and do this technique. Okay, so on this one, this is for our black feather card. So our feathers are going to go on kind of like so. And even though that's really pretty, we need to bling this up a little bit. So I'm going to take some stickles here. I'm not going to like go overboard with it because I can always add more. It's kind of hard to take it off, but you can always add more. So I'm going to just spread it across like so. And then come back from the other direction so you can get it to kind of fill in some of this space. So your little silver dots are going to just kind of land where they may. You're really not going to have a choice on that. You can kind of move them around a little bit if you want to, but it's really a little bit more trouble than it's worth. So we're just going to do something like that. All right. So now we got shimmer and glitter. This is like safety glitter because it's not going to get all over the place, right? So because it's in the gel medium, you're not going to have that kind of worry about getting glitter all over the place. It's going to stay nice and firmly affixed to the card as well. All right, so there we go. All you need on there is just a nice light coat. You saw I didn't really take a lot from the container because it didn't need a lot. All right, so now this needs to dry. Okay, so for our other card, we're going to take this and use it as a stencil. So let me just kind of position it where I think that's going to go. So what will happen is we'll use it as kind of a shadow. They're not going to, it's not going to fall right over the top of it. Oops, I'm not in the picture here. Okay. So it's not going to fall right over the top of it like this. I want it to go, the feather's going to go kind of more straight, but this is going to be kind of like a shadow behind it. All right, so let's do it like so. And again, actually, you know what? Let me grab. So this is some low tack tape, but I'm still gonna make it even less tacky by putting it on my hand so I can grab some oil. All right, because this is really thin right here and I don't want my stencil to go over. All right, so that looks pretty good. The other side too. See, I'm just sticking it on my hand. It's going to grab some body oil and that's going to help it be not as sticky, but sticky enough to do the job that I need it to. All right, so now I just need to fill this in with some stickles. So Sue wants to know, have I given thought to doing a class or to just doing things with stickles or any type of glitter glue? So no, I haven't. Thanks for the idea. I would say though that a lot of these things, you just need to think outside the box. So if you're part of my technique library, you might see some of the things that I've done with stencils, and don't think about like if I have done a technique with, say, embossing paste, give it a try with stickles and see how that works out. So when you talk about paste mediums, these kinds of glue mediums are also included in that. I mean, it's just some kind of thicker medium that you can use with a palette knife, right? So as long as you can use it with a palette knife and it spreads and it stays in place, anything you can do with something like a embossing paste, you could do with that medium too. So in this case, you could do the same thing with stickles. All right. So get your stickles out of the bottle. And, you know, if it's got the little pointy top, you can actually pull that off and just squirt some out, or you can leave that on and squirt some out. Sometimes the top comes off with it. And I'm just going to throw this away. So there we go. All right, so now I've got this beautiful feather background on here, and this is going to kind of go over top of it once this is dry, and it'll look like more of a shadow. All right, so again, we're going to set this aside and let that dry. We may need to hit it with a heat gun. All right, so here we go. A lot of times, like if I'm doing this kind of work on my own, I would have done like all of my die cutting at the same time, right? But because of like the flow of being online and live with you guys, I do things in a little bit of a different order. So just do it however it works for you. Don't feel like you've got to like do some die cutting and then come back and do another thing and whatever. You can do all your die cutting at the same time. All right, so let's finish our die cutting. I'm gonna look at our second set of dies for the day, which are these awesome. We're going to use, like I said, we're going to use these again next week. But they are called Hey, Hi, Hello. And we're going to use just the big one here. And we're going to use the Hey with the background. All right. And of course, I wasn't thinking about using my mini blossom when I cut these pieces of cardstock, so I need to cut them down. Because this only has a 3-inch width. Yeah, so exactly, Sue. Stickles is just another kind of texture paste, right? It just happens to be clear and it happens to have glitter in it sometimes. But if you think about it, so like these pops of color from scrapbook.com, I haven't even opened this one yet. Even though it's solid, I mean, this is kind of more reminiscent of a texture paste, right? Because it's a solid color. You could do the same thing with these, right? So just because it has a little squeezy top doesn't mean that that's the only thing you can do with it. You can pour some out and just use your palette knife and use it just like you would any other kind of paste. All right, so I really, have I said I really love these dies? Because I really love these dies. All right, pop these through. All right. It's just beautiful. It is just the perfect font. It's the perfect size. It's so awesome. Hello, die. Perfect. All right. So you could do the same thing with this. Now that this is cut out, let's use this as a stencil, right, on a project. Super cool. And then we've got our hay. So for this one, we are going to use the shadow piece. So the shadow piece we're going to do in the white. Here is our shadow piece. And you know what I love? Let's see if I can catch this. So you see that little lip there? I love that it gives you kind of that second bevel from the die. Really, really nice. Super, super well thought out. Okay, so again, you could use the leftover piece, right? You could use this leftover piece and do some texture paste in there. And then you could put a die cut. Or you could use this, you know, with the empty space in there. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do with these extra pieces, right? And yeah, Nancy, no way I'm losing that tittle, right? Okay, so again, we're going to use that awesome Purple Rain Iridescent paper from Tonic. Oh, look at that. I just love all the color in there. Gorgeous. All right, so I hope you guys had a great week. I can't believe it's already Thursday. Like, I don't know where the time goes. All right. And that will truly be the end of our die cutting. There we go. All right, I've got this little extra bit here. That's definitely usable. Okay. So see how beautiful that is? I mean, and I love it. It's just, it's big, it's bold, it's easy. It takes up a really nice amount of space on your project without being too overbearing. And this is a brand new bottle of glue, and it's like, hey, I'm going to glue everywhere. So that was fun. All right. So this is just going to fit perfectly. You know what's nice about this one too is that it's chunky enough that it doesn't get like all misshapen and wonky, right? I mean, it just fits in there like perfect. So there we go. Hey. All right, let's see where we're at with our stickles. So these stickles are still a little wet. So is this. All right, let's pop some heat on these guys. All right. So Nancy wants to know what Stream Elements is, and that is, if you've been seeing these things kind of pop up in the chat, it's my little bot. It's new. I'm messing around with the timing and stuff on it. He's just there to remind you guys about liking the video and checking out the supplies list if you need to do some shopping, etc. I'm trying to figure out if I can rename him. So, you know, maybe to crafty bot or something like that. So there we go. All right, so putting these two guys together can be a little tricky. Zoom in a little on this. All right, so really what I want to do is just put glue down the center and let the sides be free. So it just has a positive contact point here. And I don't want them to be perfectly overlapped like so. I want them to be a little offset. All right. So there we go. Yeah, thanks for asking, Nancy. I know that with the world and the state that it is today, people are a little questioning about things that look unfamiliar online because, you know, we've had concerns about hacking and stuff like that. So, no, it's supposed to be there. He's my little helper. Can't do it all. Yep, you got it, Sue. Just my helper. All right, so you see how I just offset those? So I really just needed to put a little bit of glue down that little center section. Just give that a little bit of positive contact for a moment. And if you're going to move on to do something else, you can always just put a, you can put a acrylic block over the top of this, a stamping block, to allow those to fuse together and dry while you're working on something else, right? All right, so now I can just go ahead and put all sorts of glue on the back, which is really great. All right, so let's get this guy done. Okay. So like I said, I'm just going to now, I've got a few more places that I can put glue. So really, there's so much going in the background that I don't need to be super concerned about where the glue is going. It's not going to show through very much, even though this is vellum, which is a good thing. This is a really great use for vellum because you don't have to worry about glue showing through or whatever. All right, but you see how I put the glue basically anywhere there was a little bit of the black showing in front. So that way I'm not getting too much glue on there. That's the great thing about my bot, Nancy. My bot is free. And you're trying to grow a craft business, you look for ways that you can do more but not have to pay more until you can afford to pay more. So it's a good way to do it. Eventually, I really would like that to be a real person so that they can interact with you. I'm not quite there yet. All right. Beautiful. All right, so you can't really see the vellum unless you're up close looking at it, right? So here we go. So it's a nice like little shadowy effect. It helps the black pop up a little bit. All right. And then our high we're going to throw right on top here. And so this is why it was important to have a little bit going on in the background, right? Because that's going to help the sentiment, which is nice and crisp and clean and white, pop off the page, right? And I know, okay, there. I'm working my way through all of these random pieces of foam adhesive that I have. Getting there, guys. Anne, you'll volunteer to be my bot? We'll have to talk about that, Anne. All right, so look, just some little bits on here. So when you're putting this on, you want to make sure that you're getting this nice and square across the bottom. Nothing worse than putting a sentiment down and having it be just a little wonky, right? You want to make sure that's nice and square. So take your time putting your sentiments on like this. Right in the eye, the dot to the eye, the tittle. Just try to keep approximate space where you think it should go. It doesn't need to be perfectly in place. I mean, if you wanted to, you could take this here. Oh, see, look, I was pretty good with that. And make sure that you've got that in place properly. But you don't have to. All right. Ooh, I just glitched there. That was weird. So there we go. First card is done. Really pretty. Okay, second one's going to come together just as quickly. Again, I think we're going to need to do just a little bit of drying here. So let me just take care of that. I wish it was easier to turn on some music or something while I was drawing, because I know you guys don't hear anything. Yeah, it's not. It'd be pretty cool if I could. All right, so this one is going to be a little different than our previous project because we're using the different feather. All right, but that's going to go kind of right like so. All right, so let's put this on our card base. This is still just a little wet, so I just need to be a little careful. For you, when you're doing this at home, I would definitely say, let it dry. Go get yourself a cup of coffee or a little snack. Work on something else. Come back. Make sure it's completely dry. So, Paula was just saying that she wishes we could find a use for all these little backers for our little dimensional foams. And I happen to agree with Nancy. Just keeping them off the floor is hard enough. Keeping them off your fingers sometimes is hard enough to do. So Vicki wants to know when I was heat setting this, what I was using. So this is my embossing gun, my Sizzix embossing gun. It happens to have two settings, high and low. I was using the high setting, but if you feel like if it's starting to bubble up or it just seems a little bit out of control, you can always just bump it down to the low setting to heat that dry. All right, there we go. Beautiful, isn't it? I mean, really, you could just leave it like that, couldn't you? That would be really pretty. Okay, so we need to get our feather on here. And again, we're not going to do anything on the sides, so that way it can kind of lift and flow like a regular feather would. So I'm just going to put some adhesive down the center and up here on the top. And down here on the bottom. So, although Paula, so she was just saying that they're so staticky. I think it depends on what brand you get, because I've noticed that the backings on the scrapbook.com ones are not as staticky as the backings on my old Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. So I think it has to do with what kind of backing they choose to use. So like the Stampin' Up! Stuff has like more of a high gloss finish, whereas the stuff from scrapbook.com is a little bit more matte in finish, and I don't think that they stick as bad on everywhere. They don't get as staticky. So just an observation. But what I do love about any any dimensionals that you get, or foam adhesive squares, whatever you want to call them. I like to get the ones that are either hexagonal, so like the ones from Stampin' Up, those are always in a hexagon shape like these. You see how they all fit together. You get to use every little bit, and then you just have to cut the edges around the end to use everything, right? Don't get the round ones because those really are a waste. You end up having to cut more than anything. So I either get the square ones from scrapbook.com, or like I said, I've been using up all these ones from Stampin' Up that I've had forever and a day. But they work equally well. So I don't like them when the paper doesn't come off, when the backing is like very difficult and you can't peel it off. That drives me nuts. So, all right, so here we go. Just going to pop this hay right over, kind of center it from side to side. Make sure it's nice and square. And there we go. Here's a cool thing about these projects. You don't need to add any sequins or other embellishment, right? We've got all of this great glitter on here. We've got the texture from the watercolor and the splatter. We've got the really cool texture of the glossy paper with the die cuts, the big bold sentiments. You don't need to add anything else to these guys. I mean, they just look absolutely gorgeous all on their own. So there it is. Way cool, right? So let's see, we've got a few more minutes to hang out. Let's do something with those die cut backgrounds. I've been going through my scraps bin like crazy. I've been making all of these projects with all of my scraps because A, my bin was getting like way too big, and B, I was putting together stuff for a charity to get them some cards. So, but what I'm thinking I might do here, let me grab some paper. Let's see. All right. First up. That would look kind of cool just all on its own, wouldn't it? All right. So let's go back into our stickles. And so I cut down this piece of just aqua cardstock. And I've got this high here. Take my stickles. Let's see what happens. This is play, right? So this is the what if. What happens if I XYZ? Fill in the blank. What happens if I, in this case, what happens if I use this negative as a stencil and fill it in with stickles? All right, so we did this last month too. We used those leaf dies and we did some really cool stuff with that. All right. Yes! Ready for the reveal? Ta-da! Check that out. Okay, I kind of totally meant to put that on there square, but I didn't. So that one will be interesting. Let's get another one. Okay, so like if you're wanting to use up stickles, this is a great way to do it. Let's see, what other color could we use? Let's do... Ooh. Okay, so there's an even better one. Another piece of this luscious, oh my gosh, Why aren't people just using this like crazy? This Purple Rain cardstock from Tonic. Okay, we're going to take the same. I think we could probably get 2 out here because this is pretty thick. All right, but I want to get this more square on here. All right, that looks... Problem is when I die cut it on here, I did not die cut it square. So we're just going to have to hope, question mark. All right, let's do this one. So again, like, you know, however thick or thin you put this on, you're going to get a different look, right? So now we're just using this as a stencil again. I think in this case, you're going to want to put it on slightly thicker so that way it gets a nice, so you can tell that the word is very defined, right? We don't want it to look like you can't read half of it. So since this was like a nice thick cardstock, it's putting on a nice thick layer. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes. Ah, that is really, really pretty. I like it a lot. I think this little center bit moved a hair because it looks a little off. Let's see. Okay, don't try this at home. This is just play, right? So we can figure out what's going on here. Yeah, see this got bent a little bit. So let's see if we can fix it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There we go. That's a little better. That looks better. Yummy. Gorgeous. All right, so we also talked about, let me grab another piece of that. So if you wanted to die cut this, but you wanted to use, like, say the, you wanted to use a Purple Rain, but you wanted it to have the stickles on top of it, the best way to do that is to apply the stickles onto the cardstock. So don't be afraid to use colored cardstock, iridescent cardstock, vellum. Vellum would be gorgeous. All right, so just spread that on there. All right, and so now what you've got is like crazy shimmer. So you've got iridescence and you've got the stickles going on. Let this dry and then die cut it with the die. All right, so if you wanted to have, instead of having it directly on the paper like this, if you wanted to have the words die cut, you would just go ahead, let this dry completely, and then run it through your die machine with the die. Okay, so that would be awesome. And let's do, since we talked about okay. So if you wanted to do the same thing with vellum, it can be tricky because when you start putting a paste medium or glue medium onto vellum, it's going to start warping, right? So if I put this on here, if I get too close to the edges, it's going to start wanting to curl in on itself, okay? So what I'm going to do is take some temporary adhesive, whether that's, you know, Post-it tape or your low tack tape. If you want a full size, you know, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 panel of it, you're going to want to, of course, cut yourself a larger piece. All right, so you can either use, you know, your low tack tape, your Post-it tape, just like I was doing. You want to tape it to a piece of regular cardstock. Okay, so that way it doesn't curl, right? Because the cardstock underneath is not going to get wet. But the vellum is going to soak up that liquid from whatever the paste has in it, water, etc. And it's going to want to bow and bend and roll in on itself. And it is not fun because then you're like trying to uncurl it and your hands have stickles or paste all over it. So put it on a piece of cardstock just to get the medium on it. All right, same thing if you were going to do this technique on vellum, you would want to tape it down first. All right. But once it's dry, again, you can use this as a background panel. You can use this to die cut with. Anything you like. All right, so Paula wants to know how you clean up stickles. No, you don't have to clean them up fast. Stickles are, how do I put it? I don't know honestly like what the material is that it is made of. It's acid-free and non-toxic. Okay, so you can eat it. But see how this is curling up here? Total side note. You see how that's curling up? It would be like totally curling in on itself. And here's the bad thing. It would be curling this way. So the stickles would be on the outside and the curl would be coming up. So everywhere you touched, it would be stickly. So anyway, oh, so it was Becca that wanted to know about cleaning up stickles fast. No, you don't have to. So if you have it on a stencil, it will come off even if it's dry. You may have to put a little more elbow grease into it, but it will come off. But like something like on your palette knife, you can just wipe this off. This is just a damp towel, and then you can wash off your towel later. All right. Oh my goodness. So yeah. And look, I used up a whole bunch of this today. So we had this one. I actually have another one that is gold with stars in it. And yeah. Very cool. So once this dries, it will actually flatten out mostly, if not all the way. And then I'll be able to die cut from this, which will be really, really pretty. These guys are going to take a while to dry because they're pretty thick, but they will dry and they will be absolutely gorgeous. So when I have some projects done with these, I will post them out on social media. And I would ask that, like I said, if you guys are inspired by anything that I have created today, if you want to pull out your stickles and have some fun, show me some works in progress. Show me how you're playing with stickles and doing all these kinds of fun things. Even if it's not a finished project, show me what you're doing. I'd love to see it. Tag me at Nicole Creates. And I will be sure to stop by and leave you a wonderful comment, maybe share your projects with my followers. So before we head out, Anne had one other question. She says, stickles, isn't it a glue component? Yeah, I think it is somewhat a glue component, but when it dries hard. So it doesn't stay sticky, which is good. Anyway, yeah, Paula, I will have to show you guys what I create with these next week as well. So if you don't catch it on social media, I will have to have them out for sure for you guys to check out. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad you guys stopped in. On your way out, don't forget to give today's video a like so that YouTube knows that you like my content and it helps to share that out in the algorithm. And if you need to do some shopping, of course, there are always the affiliate links, and I do appreciate all of your support. Head over to my blog now. The link is down in my description. You can grab today's project sheets and have some crafty fun this weekend as you explore stickles and die cuts and have some grand old time with all of your crafty supplies. Thanks so much for joining me, guys, and until next time, happy crafting. Thank you.